Welcome to The Explainer. We spend so much time absolutely obsessing over spreadsheets, timelines, and budgets, but today we're tearing up that playbook to focus on the true make or break factor of literally any project, the human element. Think about it. Have you ever been part of a project that looked perfect on paper? I mean, the budget was approved, the timeline was realistic, the tech was totally flawless, and yet, seemingly out of nowhere, it hits a massive brick wall and just derails? It's a super relatable problem, and honestly, it happens to the best of us. But why? What actually goes wrong? Well, it almost always boils down to one thing: surprise stakeholders. Projects don't usually fail because of a bad formula in Excel. They fail because someone with influence was overlooked, or a key group's concerns just weren't addressed until it was way too late. Finding and engaging these people early, that is the only way to avoid these project-killing surprises. So here's our blueprint for tackling this. First, who are your stakeholders? Second, mapping power and influence. Third, the art of communication. And fourth, building a winning team. Let's dive in. Okay, part one. Who are your stakeholders? To figure this out, we really have to look way beyond basic job titles. Basically, a stakeholder is anyone with an interest, involvement, interdependencies, influence, or potential impact on your project's success. The huge takeaway here is that stakeholders aren't just the people signing the checks. They're your end users, they're government partners, they're the suppliers, the contractors, even the folks living right down the street from your job site. If they can impact the project, or if the project impacts them, they need to be on your radar. To keep all this straight, you'd use something like a stakeholder register. Take a look at this example from the Oase Town Municipality project. It categorizes some pretty complex roles. Up top, there's Eugene Lowe, the CEO. He's an internal sponsor, and his attitude is marked as a champion because he's totally on board for successful partnerships. But then scroll down to Josie Bino. She's on the board of directors, but her expectation is environmental sustainability. And her attitude? It's marked as a resistor because she's worried about damage to a conservation district. Same organization, vastly different stakes. A register like this ensures you don't mistakenly treat them the exact same way. Moving right along to part two, mapping power and influence. Now that we've got our cast of characters, we need the right tools to actually map out this human landscape. A super simple but incredibly effective way to do this is with a power and interest grid. On the vertical axis, you map their level of authority. On the horizontal, their level of concern. If a stakeholder has high power and high interest, bam, they land right in the top right box, manage closely. Low power, low interest, bottom left, just monitor them. This visual matrix tells you exactly how much time and energy you need to invest in every single person. But hey, influence isn't just a top-down thing, right? You really have to understand your entire 360-degree social network. Upward influence involves senior management and their financial interest. Downward is your actual team doing the work. Outward looks at clients and external partners. And whatever you do, don't forget sideward influence. These are your peers or other managers who might be competing for the exact same resources you need. You are constantly being pushed and pulled from all four directions. If you want to prioritize even further, enter the salience model. This really levels things up by focusing on three specific dimensions: power, urgency, and legitimacy. Do they actually have authority? Are there massive time constraints demanding immediate attention? And is their involvement even appropriate? This is a game changer for figuring out who needs your attention right this second versus who can chill until next week. Once you've mapped everyone, you track their journey using what's called a Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix, or SEAM. Check out the columns: unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, and leading. For each person, you plot a C for their current level of engagement and a D for your desired level. So if someone is currently resistant, but you desperately need them to be supportive, that gap between the C and the D, that is exactly where your communication strategy goes to work. It's literally a map for behavioral change. All right, part three, the art of communication. We know where our stakeholders are, we know where they need to be, so now we build the bridge. Notice the contrast in methods here. On one side, we have push communication, where the sender forces the info out. Think sending an email or making a phone call. On the flip side, pull communication gives the receiver the autonomy to get info whenever they need it, like checking a team board or a shared electronic repository. By letting stakeholders pull information on their own time, you completely avoid overwhelming them with endless emails while still keeping them perfectly in the loop.
Of course, communication is never totally frictionless, is it? There's always some noise in the transmission. You've got to anticipate challenges. What's the urgency? How reliable is the tech you're actually using? Are there language barriers or weird cultural formality differences? And let's not forget confidentiality and data protection laws. These are the variables that can completely derail your communication strategy if you don't plan for them right out of the gate.
Which brings us to part 4. Building a winning team. Because managing outward is really only half the battle. The other half? Building your internal powerhouse. Think about a truly modern, collaborative team environment. We're talking physically co-located, people standing up, whiteboarding ideas together. They aren't just sitting in isolated cubicles waiting to be handed tasks. They are actively building shared understanding as a unit. That kind of vibe perfectly captures the idea of a self-organizing team. In modern, adaptive projects, cross-functional teams fluidly assume leadership as needed. Whoever has the exact right expertise for the problem right in front of them, they just step up and lead in that moment. And honestly, this represents a massive shift in how we manage projects. Traditionally, we relied on centralized leadership. Accountability was assigned to one single project manager who just doled out all the tasks. But modern frameworks lean heavily into distributed leadership. One team member might serve as a facilitator today to enable collaboration, but tomorrow that role can shift. The leadership is shared across the board. Which brings us to what's arguably the absolute pinnacle of team management, servant leadership. In this model, your main job is not to tell people what to do. Your job is to lead by deeply understanding and addressing the needs of your team members. You exist to clear their roadblocks. You exist to enable the highest possible team performance. You aren't sitting at the top of a pyramid looking down. You're at the very bottom, holding the entire team up. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Look at your own day-to-day. Are you just managing your project, pushing schedules, checking off boxes? Or are you truly serving your team and engaging your stakeholders? Remember, the human element is the ultimate make or break factor. Master that, and I promise you, the spreadsheets will take care of themselves. Thank you so much for joining me, and I absolutely cannot wait to see how you apply this playbook to your next big project.